Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Kneon, and I'm here to tell you that the comic book industry is collapsing. It really is. I'm talking the direct market. I'm talking everyone outside of Marvel, DC, and possibly Image is in Hurtsville right now because of Diamond, the basket that everybody put their eggs into. It turns out that it had a broken handle, and now everyone is stuck paying the bills. Dynamite, Fantagraphics, Drawn and Quarterly, and more are teaming up to fight Diamond because Diamond owes a lot of these publishers a lot of money. In some cases, almost $1 million. I think Dynamite, they're owed like $1 million. And on top of that, Dynamite is holding hostage a lot of inventory, a lot of merchandise, things that they were selling on consignment. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the trickle-down effect of this. I cannot overstate how bad this is going to be for the comic book industry as we know it. A lot of shops are going to be affected. A lot of smaller publishers are going to be affected. And yes, everybody's like, well, Marvel and DC and manga are fine. I'm like, yes, Marvel and DC and manga will be fine. Shut up. We all know that. I'm not saying comic books are going to stop completely, but a lot of the publishers that we've known for years that have existed more or less in the direct market, they will probably be taken out by this, or at least hurt severely, very badly burnt. And very badly burnt. They're very badly burnt. And also a lot of shops. A lot of shops may shutter if they didn't pivot to Pokemon cards. Pokemon cards and Magic the Gathering cards, that was basically keeping shops in business. It used to be Funko Pops. Funko is in a bad place right now. Basically, comic shops now that are healthy are pivoting to collectible card games and vintage stuff, back issues, vintage collectibles, that sort of thing. New comic books, for the most part, are not the bread and butter for a lot of these shops anymore. It used to be the bread and butter. The Wednesday Warriors, not so much now. Although there is some good news in comics. I just read that Daniel Warren Johnson is going to be doing Absolute Batman, which is fine. I actually have held off on reading Absolute Batman, but now that he's going to be working on it, apparently starting later this year, I think one of the annuals or something, I might actually pick it up. I really like his art, especially in Transformers, and they're going to switch him out. I think Robert Kirkman's going to be writing it. But yeah, there's some bright spots in the comic book industry, but I mean, we're talking flecks of diamond in just this big ass lump of coal. That's kind of what we're looking at right now. And I'm sorry. I'm talking to friends who are publishers. I'm talking to friends who own shops. We own a shop. We don't sell new comic books, but we do own a shop. We sell a lot of games, a lot of toys, and other stuff, graphic novels, manga. We don't sell any new comics because it's a really dicey business. It really is. And even that, I mean, it's not good. It's not a good situation. I'm sorry you don't like to hear it. Sorry to rain your parade. But there it is. Anyway, we're going to talk about this before we get into it any further. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. Guys, go out to news.clownfishtv.com, news.clownfishtv.com. We're going to be ramping up podcast content over there, trying to build a little bit of a life raft off of YouTube. I don't trust YouTube. Some weird things have been happening with YouTube in the last couple months that have made me scratch my chin and go like, I wonder what's going on here. We've seen this before. YouTube or Google rather destroyed websites with AI search, and it feels to me like the same thing is now coming to YouTube. And I don't think it's going to be good news for independent content creators, regardless of your genre. I don't think it's a political thing. I think it's a mainstream media thing versus the rest of us thing. And I think it's going to get a lot worse. That's my personal opinion on that. Take it or leave it. Clownfish was right. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it in 3 years and people are like, oh my God, guys, like YouTube's just all AI shit and mainstream shit. And I'm like, well, I told you. Anyway, let's take a look at this. This comes from Bling Cool. Dynamite, Fantagraphics, Drawn and Quarterly team up against Diamond. Good. Nick Brucci, the owner of Dynamite, has issued the following call to action to comic book publishers on behalf of Dynamite, Drawn and Quarterly, and Fantagraphics. And Fantagraphics are good people. I used to do work for them. I worked on a lot of the Disney collections for them. Never had a problem with Fantagraphics. I think they're, top shelf. That's a different company, but they're a top shelf publisher. That being said, they're a niche publisher, and I know they don't have the deep pockets to weather something like this. There's a plan to pool resources. He writes, notice to all publishers and vendors who distribute products through Diamond or its successor entities have publicly moved to sell inventory currently in its warehouses without publishers' consent. That is some grade A bullshit. And they're saying, you know, in a technicality, oh, you know, fill out your paperwork. It's like Monsters, Inc. Fill out your paperwork. Several publishers are pulling their resources together to challenge these proposed sales procedures for this inventory. If you represent a company with inventory currently warehoused with Diamond or its successor entities and would like to learn more, please reach out to the following publishers who are helping put together a group of vendors. The response must be filed with the Maryland Bankruptcy Court by July 16th. And here are the email addresses of Eric Reynolds at Fanta, Peggy Burns at Drawn and Quarterly. I've never worked with Drawn Quarterly. I don't know anybody over there. And Nick Barucci from Dynamite. This all concerns the plans of the debtors of the Diamond Comic Distributors Chapter 11 bankruptcy to liquidate the consignment stock owned by hundreds of publishers to raise money to pay off Diamond's debt thanks to the banks. And that was to be decided by the courts Monday of Comic-Con next week, when affected publishers would be extra busy elsewhere. Wow. With filing the week before. That's 5 days time. I expect that Tomorrow's Publishing, Graffiti Designs, and Magma Comics, who have already filed paperwork on their own, will be joining them. I expect a lot of publishers to be joining them because, I mean, this is really looking pretty grim for a lot of these companies. I mean, a lot of them are saying if they sell their inventory or they don't get whatever they're owed by Diamond, they're done. Like they're going out of business. Because again, the margins are not good. Even on some of the quote unquote bigger comic book publishers, this isn't 1997. Well, 1997 wasn't that great. It's not 1992. A lot of these guys have been just kind of holding on by their fingertips. I can see now why Dark Horse sold out when they did, because I think they realized that things were not going to get any better for them. And this is probably the best deal they were going to get. Dark Horse sold out to Embracer Group a couple of years ago. And yeah, they're probably looking at it and they're like, yeah, this is because that was during the pandemic, I think. And they're like, yeah, things are not good. It's time to cash in our chips and move along. Graffiti Designs and Magma Comics filed legal paperwork against Diamond. Tomorrow's Publishing filed a legal objection to plans of the debtors to liquidate the consignment stock. So here's a problem. And we're hearing about this from a lot of tabletop companies too. So yeah, a lot of publishers, some I think sell directly to Diamond, others have consignment for reorders, you know, and they have a lot of inventory there. So what is basically going to happen, as I understand it, is the old Diamond, the original Diamond, they've got a bunch of stuff sitting in a warehouse that technically belongs to publishers. They're going to sell it all dirt cheap to some place like Ollie's Bargain Outlets, and then Ollie's Bargain Outlets are going to probably undercut these publishers retail. So if these guys are selling through other channels like Amazon or whatever, well, you can go to Ollie's and get a $20 book for $5 or $10. And who's going to buy it off of Amazon for 2 to 3 times as much? And they're trying to stop them from doing that. Because, I mean, beyond the fact that shit that they've got, in some cases, I know firsthand, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of retail, worth of inventory that they're selling out the back door. They're going to be competing with themselves. And you go always, and you see it all the time. You go there and there's like this weird collection of like, here's some indie board games and here's some comic book blind bags from 1987. And here's some, you know, and it feels like a comic shop got liquidated or was Diamond at some point. And this is how they get rid of stuff. A lot of the comics that wind up there, I think, come from distributors. You know, maybe the publishers, but a lot of times the publishers just ship the stuff directly to the distributor. And this is a problem. And this is what we're kind of looking at, because I'm going to tell you, this whole thing kind of threw a wrench. We were actually looking at, I guess, becoming like a real publisher and actually going through Diamond and all that jazz this year. And this, between this and then the whole tariff situation, it just threw a wrench into everything we were going to do too. So boo-hoo, I know. It's just like, it is. It's going to have a long tail. This is going to be catastrophic for shops. This is going to be catastrophic for small press. I can't state that enough. And yeah, okay, so Batman's good. What about the other 99% of the comic book industry? You know, I mean, I know a lot of people that are tabletop publishers that are just, they're decimated. I mean, they got hit with the tariff situation. That seems to have been remedied for now. But now they're looking at, you know, a whole bunch of inventory they have at Diamond being sold a fraction of what they wanted to sell. I mean, in some cases, if they sell to Ollie's or whatever, Ollie's might sell for less than the publisher actually paid to get the thing made in the first place. And you can't compete with you can't compete with that. It's ridiculous. But there are several publishers losing tons and tons of money. This is coming from Bleeding Fool, not to be confused with Bleeding Cool. Diamond bankruptcy costing comic publishers and RPG companies thousands. They're basically encapsulating. They said this is Roll for Combat owner Stephen Glicker, who actually watches his channel. This channel is actually pretty good. Means they're going to take all the inventory that they currently have in their warehouse, and Diamond's going to liquidate it and keep all the profits to pay off their debt. I couldn't believe this when I read it. I spoke to my attorney. He looked it over, and his exact quote to me was, "It's not as bad as you think it is. It's much worse." Yeah, basically, you're losing all your inventory, and they get to keep all the money in it, and you have to compete with yourself. Said Roll for Combat will lose revenue from the sale of those books. They'll also potentially lose money from having to compete with themselves. Yeah. Wargamer asked Roll for Combat what potential losses it could face, and Glicker estimates losses of approximately $50,000 in profit if everything in inventory was sold and we received payment from Diamond. However, they currently have approximately $120,000 worth of our product in their warehouse. According to ICV2, they're going to have a hearing on July 21st to give vendors time to object to it, and they're trying to get together now. Despite the hearing, Glicker doesn't seem optimistic about Goodman Games' chances to change the situation. The bankruptcy law is not in our favor. Yeah, it's not. And that's what people understand. Bankruptcy court, somebody goes bankrupt, Chapter 11, there's a difference between Chapter 11 and Chapter 7. Chapter 7 means it's done. It's over. The business is kaput. Everything's being sold off. It's like a garage sale. They sell all the assets of the business off. The business dissolves. That's the end of it. Chapter 11 is you basically put a pin in it, and you don't have to pay your debt, right? And it gives you a chance to reorganize the business to see if you can salvage anything from it, maybe sell off divisions or whatever to streamline things to get things running again. The problem with Chapter 11 is all those debtors, all those people that you owe money with, they have to get in line. And if there's no money, because in a lot of cases, like they go into Chapter 11, they can barely make payroll. If there's no money, you have to get in line, wait your turn, and hope that the bankruptcy court sees fit to give you some money. And it might be that you're owed $10,000 and you might get a $50 check for that because that's all that they can pay, right? So contractors especially, they're at the low end of the totem pole. So what they're doing in the case of Diamond is they're going with the companies that they owe substantial amounts of money to, like millions of dollars, like Penguin Random House. And in this case, I think it was Chase Bank or something like that. They owed a ton of money to. So what they're doing is they're just selling the stuff out the back door to try to pay off that bank. It's crazy. Dynamite, they're going to suffer from it, which I never thought Dynamite. I mean, I'm going to be honest here. Like, I don't know anybody really over at Dynamite, but I assume since they were a bigger publisher that they would have had more cash reserves. They haven't been paid in like a month or two, I guess, from Diamond, but I just always assumed they had more money in the bank, and apparently they don't. They basically just churn this stuff out month to month, and that's not good. And that gives kind of an overall view of, I guess, the health of the comic book industry, because if you're not being propped up by a corporation like Marvel or DC, a lot of these companies are month to month. Now, I know some personally, I'm friends with some people at different publishers that they've actually got money in the bank, thank God. But a lot of these publishers really do not. They are living month to month. They solicit their comics, they get paid for them, a few months later or whatever, then they pay the talent when they can pay them, or they pay the talent up front and then they're in the hole until they have the books get sold. It really is not a good system. I mean, I'm going to be honest, it's not a good system, but I think we're going to have a lot of collateral damage from this, and I think it's going to end with a lot of shops going out, a lot of smaller publishers going out, a lot of people getting ejected from the comic book industry. Now, it could be Darwinism too. It could be that a lot of the publishers that get gone are just weaker publishers that maybe without the direct market wouldn't have existed anyway. That's possible. But it's not a good situation. There's no way to put a good spin on it in regard to how this is going to impact the comic book industry. things are going to be very, very different in a year from now. And especially in 2 years. I think we're going to have fewer publishers. I think we're going to have more corporate-owned entities producing comics. But I think a lot of these kinds of publishers that existed mostly in the direct market, I think they're going to be gone. I think a lot of them are going to be gone, especially if they didn't get picked up by one of the other distributors, Lunar or Penguin or whatever. So we're going to wrap it up. There we go. Comics is burning down. It's not hyperbole. It's happening. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. We'll talk later. For more pop culture news, views, and rants, go to news.clownfishtv.com. That's news.clownfishtv.com.